Good day, everyone. Grace and peace. Today, I will reflect on this idea that from the early church up to the medieval thinkers, there is one continuous journey where faith led us to understanding, and that understanding leads us closer to God, not only in the mind, but also in the heart. As a seminarian, I see this as my own journey. I am not studying just to know ideas, but I am being formed to know and to love God more deeply. So, first, let's start with faith and reason begin to work together by Clement of Alexandria. So, he teaches that philosophy is not against faith. Instead, faith can help us better. For him, philosophy is like a preparation. It helps the mind to receive the truth. So from the beginning, Christianity was not an anti-thinking. It welcomes reason. It is very open in reason. And I see that studying is not separate from faith. It is a part of a journey. So this is what he is literally saying, that's profoundly saying. And second is that God is found within. So it is from Augustine that in his Confessions, he shows us that the search for God is very personal. It is a very deeply personal. He looked for happiness in many things, in many ways, in many times, but in the end, he discovered that God was already with him. God is closer to us than we think. That we thought that God, we can find him in many ways, but we often look outside, but instead, God is in ourselves. And this reminds me that formation is not just external. So I must examine my heart and my desires, and also to deepen my relationship with God by how Augustine did. So third is faith seeks understanding. In the Proslogium of Anselm, it teaches a very simple but powerful idea. I believe so that I may understand. So here, faith comes first, but faith we doesn't stop there. It pushes us to think more, to deepen our critical thinking, because for Anselm, God is the greatest being we can ever think of. So the things we can think, it is not God. So the things we can think, it leads us towards God. So this means that somehow I should not be afraid to ask questions, to seek or to deepen my mind, because questions are part of my growing faith. And I know that when I grow my faith, it is to deeper to know God. And now, moving deeper, Boethius teaches us that everything that exists is good because it comes from God. Ang lahat ng mabuti ay nanggagaling sa Diyos. Pero for Aquinas goes further, explains that God is not just one being among others, but God is the source of all being. We share our existence with God, that everything exists because God gives its existence. Sabi nga, diba, God is the primordial source of everything. So God is not very far away. He is sustaining everything and every moment that we have. And this makes me see life that existence is not random. Existence is not comes from nowhere. It is that existence comes from God, and we share in His existence, in His perfectness. And next is that we believe that God is beyond all understanding. we are reminded of important by Dionysius, that even if we think deeply, God is still beyond our full understanding. We cannot fully comprehend God. We can say what God is not, but we cannot fully experience what He is, who He is, and we cannot know who really Him. We cannot see Him face to face, literally. And this teaches us the humility that God is not just an idea to understand. He is a mystery to encounter. And for me as a seminarian, that I learned that encountering God is not physically, but in prayer and in silence. That when I enter this time of prayer and silence, I know that I am seeing God, experiencing the mystery of God. And now this is the journey that Bonaventure brings everything together. He teaches that the journey of the mind leads to God, but it must also journey of the heart. So this we see that God is not only in the mind, but God is forming us in our hearts. And this we see that thinking and faith is not separated, but God is in there both. And knowledge must lead us to love. And for me, this means that it should lead me closer to God. That while I am learning, while I am studying, it brings me closer to Him, and that leads me to my faith. That leads me to my heart, growing deeper to Him, knowing Him and loving Him. So finally, Gilson helps us to see the bigger picture, that all these thinkers are not separated. Every part of them are not part by part separated, but this is a continuous part of their tradition, that faith begins, then we seek understanding, and this leads us to deeper reflection and ends in union with God. That all of them, this is a one movement. And I realized that this movement, I'm very part of it, that we are very part of it, that our faith does not end with there, but we deeply know what our faith is by seeking our understanding, seeking the truth. So what do we see here? From Clement to Augustine, from Anselm to Aquinas, and from Dionysius to Bonaventure, there is one message, there is one meaning behind all of this, that faith seeks understanding, and understanding leads us to God, and God calls us to our transformation, to our growth in ourselves. So God is both the source of everything and the goal of our lives. I believe that it is not just for me to be called to study what is true, but I believe that this faith must be lived, that this truth must be lived, that must reflect on me, especially when I'm serving our church as seminarians, when I go to apostolates and every time. So let us not think only about God, but we must truly seek Him and allow Him to change our lives, to change our hearts, because I believe that the philosophy, the medieval philosophy, does not only end by it seeking the truth in the mind, but the mind, the truth, going to the heart, transforming ourselves, and reflecting upon ourselves, so that when we go to our apostolates, to our service, to our whatever the church needs, that's not only on our mind, but it is with our heart. Because as would Thomas Aquinas said, that the man of prayer is not only holy spiritually, but he is ready to understand, to preach the gospel, the truth. So the man of faith is not only sola prayer, but it is also with the mind ready to face the congregation, to serve the congregation. He is equipped both the faith and the truth that we have in our Catholic Church. And I believe when one seminarian or I personally become equipped in the mind and open in the heart with God, believe that every apostolate that I have must be fruitful. I can serve the church truly. And this is the beauty of medieval philosophy, that we start in the faith, we grow it deeper through our seeking of our understanding, and as we understand it and as we grow our faith, it must be a fruit of service, must be a fruit of prayer for others and not just only for myself.